Aria descended upon Nova Terra at the earliest hint of dawn, her shimmering vessel gliding through the wispy skies like a silver comet, leaving a trail of opalescent light in its wake, the wonder of her arrival igniting the heart of all who witnessed. She was an esteemed diplomat from Celestia, a world woven from crystalline spires and starlit seas, where the nights ran deep with cosmic secrets, and where the dream of peace had been preserved through millennia of refined negotiation. On Nova Terra, she was known only by her luminous name, Aria, although in her native tongue, it was said to carry a resonance that could soothe storms and quell the fiercest cosmic tides. The landing site lay upon the outskirts of Aurora City, the capital of Nova Terra, whose towers rose in austere grandeur, their metallic surfaces reflecting the morning sun with a hard brilliance. Officials of the planetary Concord stood in neat rows, wearing diplomatic attire cloaks trimmed with the swirling sigils of their station. News had spread quickly across the planet that a Celestian envoy, glowing with all the grace and mystery of her distant land, would soon step onto their soil, and so thousands of eager citizens lined the wide thoroughfares. They pressed in curiosity, straining to catch the first glimpse of the visitor whose presence might bridge the gap between worlds that had once known only indifferent coexistence. Aria, emerging from her craft's lowered ramp, elicited a collective gasp. Draped in flowing garments of pale silver threads, woven from Celestian starlight, she appeared as though fashioned from moonbeams and set adrift upon the air. Her hair was long and sleek, crowned with an elegant circlet that resonated with an azure glow, reflecting emotions and signals from her subtle telepathic network. More striking than any ornament, however, was her expression, a delicate mix of curiosity and compassion, as though she held within her chest the capacity to empathize with every being she met. Soon, the Celestian retinue followed in her wake, their faces likewise lit with that same soft luminescence. Yet none shone quite like Aria. She had been gifted a mission of utmost importance, to negotiate a formal alliance between the Celestian Star Council and the Nova Terran government, forging a bond in technology, trade, and the intangible, priceless realm of cultural exchange. Before stepping foot upon the reception platform, Aria lifted her gaze to the radiant sky, silent for a moment, reflecting on the cosmic significance of what was about to begin. A hush enveloped the city. Then dawned in a voice both soothing and melodic. Aria addressed the gathered officials. "I bring greetings from the realm of Celestia, and from our elders who guide us through the tapestry of cosmic destinies. We come in peace and curiosity, hoping to share our knowledge, and in turn, learn of your ways, that we might forge bonds that last beyond the fleeting measure of one lifetime." With that, the hush broke, and applause sprang forth in waves, echoing along the polished metal corridors of Aurora City's great squares. Officials stepped forward to greet her warmly, each marveling at the gentle aura that surrounded the alien diplomat. Greetings, introductions, and formalities took place in quick succession. Aria's presence seemed to banish even the slightest shadows of doubt. So compelling was her earnest smile. So comforting was the gentle radiance emanating from her soul. And yet, for all her composure, Aria felt a whisper of nervousness coursing through her. She had trained for this mission her entire life, immersing herself in countless star languages and historical lessons. But truly, setting foot on a world so different from her own, seeing the magnitude of humanity's potential, it stirred her heart in ways that neither star maps nor diplomatic treatises had prepared her for. Even as she gracefully smiled and offered her salutations, her eyes flickered from face to face, searching for the intangible spark that would help her understand the people she intended to befriend. Days passed in a flurry of official engagements, each replete with ceremonies, banquets, and public festivities. Everywhere she went, Aria was hailed as a shining example of Celestian elegance. She found herself escorted through Aurora City's famed galleries, monumental archives, and the colossal cosmic observatories perched on the city's highest spires, where she gazed upon Nova Terra's ringed moon and sighed at its beauty. In fleeting moments of solitude, she observed the planet's dwellers, watched the children playing in the streets, the artists capturing bright scenes on their canvases, and the myriad personalities that made Nova Terra more than a mere dot in the cosmos. Yet, for all the fascination, she felt a sense of loneliness, an awareness that her mission placed her slightly apart. She bore the burden of bridging worlds, upholding the dignity of Celestia, and safeguarding hope for a future that would unite the two peoples. It was in these reflective intervals that she first began to sense that her sojourn here would not be solely about treaties, but also about unraveling the depths of her own identity, which, until then, had been confined by the traditions and expectations of her home. At last came an evening so clear, so starlit, that one could see the faintest ribbons of the Milky Way arching across the sky. The Nova Terran Chancellor had arranged a special gathering in the Arboretum of Aurora City's High Palace, a place replete with exotic flowers, luminous plants, and winding pathways reminiscent of a dream. Standing amid a group of dignitaries, Aria spoke of Celestia's storied oracles, describing the crystalline cathedrals that refracted starlight into rainbows of shifting color. Her voice, gentle as a breeze through night-blooming flowers, mesmerized the crowd, stirring their imaginations and fueling their desire for deeper connection with a world so distant and yet so intertwined with their own fate. In a pause between her descriptions, Aria sensed someone's gaze resting upon her. Turning, she saw a man of unassuming stature, wearing a server's attire, a slight flush in his cheeks. He was carrying a tray of sparkling beverages, which he offered to the assembled guests. Their eyes met only briefly, yet the moment felt suspended in time, as though the universe itself paused to allow that exchange. He was a young man named Damon, a citizen of Nova Terra, who had taken a simple job in the palace to earn his way through higher studies. There was a spark of curiosity about him, an earnestness in his expression. His dark hair fell in gentle waves, and he carried himself with a quiet dignity, a gentle soul unafraid of hard work. Perhaps it was the fleeting reflection of the starlight that played upon his features, or the near imperceptible aura that spoke of a good heart. But Aria felt an inexplicable warmth stir within her, a subtle quickening of her pulse that she had never before experienced. She smiled at him, and he bowed slightly, as was customary for those serving the dignitaries. Yet, his expression, beneath the surface of formality, mirrored the same respectful fascination she had witnessed in the official receptions. Her eyes lingered on his face for a moment longer than might have been deemed polite, and she felt a soft flush of her own in her cheeks. The aristocrats, consumed by conversation, paid little notice to the subtle interchange, but Aria's heart stirred with the faintest tremor of emotion. Soon, she resumed her diplomatic composure, turning back to the group to answer their inquiries. But something had shifted, a small yet significant fracture in the pristine veneer of her carefully orchestrated role. Her mind drifted to the glimpses of Damon's eyes, so filled with curiosity, so openly reflective of the awe he felt toward her. She, who was used to being an object of admiration, found herself unexpectedly drawn to the sincere, unguarded nature of this man, whose world was as new to her as hers was to him. When the gathering concluded and the dignitaries slowly drifted out of the arboretum, Aria lingered under the boughs of a particularly radiant tree, its silver leaves chiming softly in the night breeze. There, as if summoned by fate, Damon approached, eyes lowered slightly in respect, voice gentle in tone. "Excuse me, honored diplomat," he began. I wanted to thank you for sharing the stories of Celestia. Your words awakened dreams within me. I have never been beyond Nova Terra, but listening to your tales, I felt as if I had journeyed to your starry home," Aria replied, her voice hushed. "I am glad you found them pleasing, but please, you need not be so formal. My name is Aria." His cheeks flushed again. "Aria," he repeated, as though trying the shape of her name upon his tongue. "Forgive me if I seem bold, but do all Celestians possess such a gift for stirring the imagination. A slight laugh escaped her lips. We Celestians nurture the love of story and song in our hearts from a young age. Our elders believe that through stories, we connect with the cosmic tapestry of life, bridging the distances between hearts. You speak as if from the ancient epics, Damon murmured, eyes bright with wonder. I have always been fascinated by the idea of bridging worlds, uniting distant peoples, but it sounds more like legend than reality. Aria tilted her head, curiosity piqued. Why should it be legend? You and I stand here, from different worlds, speaking to each other without fear. Is that not evidence enough that the impossible can be achieved? He nodded, a subtle grin forming on his lips. The arboretum seemed to hold its breath around them. Somewhere in the distance, the hum of cosmic wind resonators lent a dreamy quality to the air. In that moment, it felt as though the boundaries of universe and time softened. We must each play our part, Aria said at last, to build a bond between our peoples. He regarded her softly. I hope that in some small way, I might play mine too. And though neither spoke further of their unspoken bond, the connection that had sparked between them that night became an unspoken promise, an opening note in a symphony that would soon envelop them both. The weeks that followed passed in a daze of official duties for Aria, a flurry of conferences with high counselors, research scientists, and historians, each intent on forging a stronger path for Celestia and Nova Terra. Aria's dedication to the cause was unwavering, yet her mind often strayed to the memory of that late evening encounter amid the glowing trees, where Damon's quiet wonder had lit something within her that she could scarcely name. In rare intervals of leisure, Aria slipped away from the bustle of dignitaries. She would navigate Aurora City's lesser-traveled paths, drifting past the gleaming towers that soared into the clouds, and the lively plazas thrumming with music and dancing as Nova Terrans celebrated the novelty of their alien guests. Sometimes, she found Damon, as though by chance. Though both of them understood that these meetings were no accident, he continued to serve in the palace, though he had begun to catch the attention of certain officials who questioned the ease with which he conversed with the honored Celestian. Nevertheless, the bond between them grew with each passing day, nurtured in hushed corners of the palace halls and in the hidden nooks of Aurora City's gardens, where only fireflies and softly blooming star lilies served as witness to their conversations. They spoke of everything, from the simplest joys of daily life, like the taste of Nova Terran fruits, compared to Celestia's crystalline blossoms, to the vast mysteries of cosmic existence. Damon confided in her how, from childhood, he had been spellbound by legends of star-faring civilizations, dreaming that one day he might journey beyond the starlit veil of his home world. Aria, tiny in turn, shared tales of her family, the proud lineage of Celestian ambassadors known for their empathy and skill in bridging misunderstandings between species. She admitted she sometimes feared that she lacked the same unwavering confidence as her predecessors, harboring a more sensitive heart that could be easily hurt by disappointment or betrayal. Through it all, an electric undercurrent pulsed between them, manifesting in the soft glow of Aria's circlet whenever he drew near. Celestian biology was famously responsive to emotion's subtle changes in light and color, intangible resonances that could not be entirely suppressed. Thus, Aria's innate sensitivity to Damon's presence betrayed her to him, though to none else. For in public, she remained the poised diplomat, her face the portrait of composure. Yet, rumors circulated quietly among certain palace attendants, who whispered of the enthralling connection that seemed to blossom between the diplomat and the lowly server. A few curious souls watched from afar, gleaning hints from the gentle warmth with which she addressed him, or the longing glance that flickered across his face whenever she departed. Their friendship ripened, forging a kinship so strong that it seemed to transcend the gulf of species. They laughed over the wonders and follies of both Celestian and Nova Terran culture, weaving a tapestry of camaraderie stitched from sincerity, respect, and an undercurrent of longing that neither dared name too boldly. All the while, Novaterra's political drama swelled in the background. Certain factions viewed the Celestian presence with suspicion, fearing a loss of sovereignty or a hidden agenda. Others, enthralled by Celestia's advanced technology, clamored for immediate trade treaties, eager to glean from Celestian star maps and quantum forging processes. Caught between these forces, Aria performed her diplomatic tasks with tireless grace. She negotiated agreements that promised cultural exchanges and the seeds of a future alliance. Eventually, she was required to attend an official feast held by Governor Taurus, a man known for his pragmatic attitude and occasional xenophobic undertones. The event took place in a grand circular chamber, whose domed ceiling displayed panoramic vistas of the cosmos swirling overhead. Hundreds of guests dined beneath that magnificent display of stars, while drones circled overhead, capturing imagery for broadcast across the planet, ensuring that every citizen might witness this pivotal moment in Nova-Terran Celestian relations. Aria, seated at the table of honor next to Governor Taurus, remained ever polite. She answered his questions regarding Celestian technology, assuring him that their intentions were peaceful and mutually beneficial. Across the table, many eyes rested upon her, some with admiration, others with guarded mistrust. In the midst of it all, as courses were served, Aria caught a glimpse of Damon among the servers, his expression resolute despite the grandeur swirling around him. When their gazes locked, she felt the air thicken with unspoken longing, as though the entire banquet scene dimmed, leaving only the light that flickered between their eyes. It was a mere second, if that, but it ignited a surge within her heart, one that refused to subside no matter how she tried to refocus her attention on the official conversation at hand. Later that night, she returned to her quarters in the Celestian diplomatic compound, a graceful edifice that shimmered like polished opal under Nova-Terra's 2 moons. She walked through the quiet halls, her retinue trailing at a respectful distance, and at last found her private suite. There, through the panoramic windows, she could see the ringed moon at its zenith, luminous and haunting. Her reflection on the glass revealed a face tinged with both hope and trepidation. Aria sank into a soft seat by the window, letting the calm night air swirl around her. Reaching up, she touched the circlet resting on her brow, feeling the gentle pulse of Celestian bioluminescence that responded to the swirl of emotions within her. A part of her felt torn. She was a diplomat, bound by duty to remain impartial, to avoid any entanglement that might jeopardize the neutrality of her mission. And yet, the bonds of the heart often wove deeper than the mind's rational constraints. Her gaze drifted to a small device upon her desk, a communicator linking her directly to Celestia. She knew that the elders expected progress reports, updates on negotiations, and careful analyses of Nova-Terran sociopolitical structures. But they had never warned her what to do should she find herself enamored of a local, how the call of her own heart might shape or disrupt the careful alliances she was entrusted to nurture. She sighed, remembering Damon's earnest face, the kindness in his eyes, and the subtle yearning in his voice whenever he spoke of traveling among the stars. She wondered if it would be possible for a Celestian and a Nova-Terran to truly unite, not just politically, but intimately, forging a bond that transcended the gulf of biology. She had heard rumors that such couplings were more than theoretical, that some distant star systems recognized half Celestian, half other species, though it was exceedingly rare, fraught with complications both social and biological. Sleep claimed her eventually, but her dreams were restless, filled with kaleidoscopic visions of cosmic tides, of Damon's hand reaching for hers, and of a future in which Celestians and Nova-Terrans danced beneath a shared sky of infinite potential. Morning arrived, heralded by the golden wash of Nova-Terra's sun, casting the city's reflective towers into brilliance. Aria rose to a day overflowing with meetings, each steeped in political nuance. The tension she had sensed among various factions now permeated nearly every discussion, with some delegates pushing for immediate annexation of Celestian technology. and others warning that such generosity might come with hidden strings attached. Aria maintained her poise, her voice ever gentle as she reasoned that true cooperation required mutual trust, gradual exchange, and the forging of human Celestian partnerships in research. Despite her best efforts, she felt the strain weigh upon her, the burden of bridging two vast cultures with centuries of separate evolution. Amid these negotiations, Damon emerged in the background as a quiet constant. Whenever their eyes met, whether across a crowded hall or in the hush of a private moment, Aria felt her heart lighten, as though she caught a glimpse of hope shining beyond the complexities of her official duties. During one such private moment, an official recess, allowing the delegates to gather their notes, Aria retreated to a small courtyard within the palace. There she found Damon, tending to the arrangement of an outdoor reception, scheduled for later in the day. Their greeting was subdued yet charged with anticipation. They spent several minutes merely looking upon one another, letting the hush speak for them. He broke the silence first. "Aria, you look weary. These negotiations must weigh heavily on your spirit." She nodded, setting her slender hands upon the edge of a decorative fountain, where water sparkled under the morning light. "I knew it would be challenging, but I sometimes wonder if we can truly reconcile the differences between our peoples. There are fears and ambitions on both sides, fears that overshadow trust." Damon approached, a respectful distance kept. "Some fear is natural, but we also have wonder, curiosity, admiration. You are bridging worlds with each word you speak. I only wish there were something more I could do than serve at banquets and watch you from afar." A soft, sincere smile curved on her lips. "Your presence soothes me. Damon, please, do not underestimate the comfort of a friendly face in a sea of skeptical looks." He blushed slightly, drawing courage from her admission. I want to help you more, Aria. Perhaps I could share my knowledge of Novaterran society, our histories, our subtle customs that might not appear in official briefings. If it could ease the path of your negotiations, I'd be glad." Her eyes brightened. Without thinking, she reached out and placed a hand lightly upon his. The contact startled them both, but neither withdrew. "That would be a tremendous help," she said softly, her voice trembling with gratitude. In that moment, they might have lingered, but footsteps echoed from the archway, a group of delegates passing through. Aria quickly stepped away, returning to the dignified posture expected of her, while Damon offered a polite bow. The interruption stung, a reminder that the world's watchful gaze rested upon them both, and that such a simple gesture of closeness could spark scandal. Still, Damon found ways to assist her. He gathered accounts of historical trade alliances, local philosophers' writings on cultural exchange, old myths and parables that captured the imagination of Novaterra's people. With time, Aria wove these insights into her negotiations, referencing stories that resonated deeply with certain delegates. She found that when she recalled a local hero's sacrifice, or compared it to Celestia's revered guardians, hearts began to soften, if only a little. But not all hearts were softened. Governor Taurus, who had begun to suspect there was more to Aria's interactions with the palace staff than mere courtesy, convened several closed-door sessions with members of his council. They questioned Celestia's motives, pointing out that the famed Celestian empathy could be a form of manipulation, a method of swaying minds without direct coercion. Unbeknownst to Aria, these suspicions grew quietly but steadily. Certain council members started to scrutinize her every move, especially her rapport with Damon. Whispers circulated, some even claiming that a high-born Celestian might cast illusions to lure unsuspecting souls into compliance. While Damon and Aria remained oblivious to the rising wave of skepticism, they continued their deepening bond in secret, confiding in each other in hushed corners, or strolling through lesser-frequented corridors. Each meeting was brief, precious, and fraught with the danger of exposure. Yet, they could not resist the pull that drew them together, a cosmic magnetism bridging two hearts aligned by fate. One evening, Aria found herself reviewing treaty drafts late into the night. A single lamp illuminating her desk within the Celestian diplomatic residence. The moonlight glimmered through the crystalline windows, painting the walls in gentle swaths of pale silver. The weight of her responsibilities pressed upon her, her circlet pulsing a soft, restless light. A quiet knock sounded at the door. Surprised, she rose to answer, her robes flowing across the polished floor. To her amazement, she found Damon standing there, holding a small satchel in one hand and a delicate package in the other. A swirl of emotion crossed her face, delight at his visit, trepidation at the risk. I'm sorry to arrive unannounced," he murmured, voice low to avoid waking others. "You left some instructions for me about a certain local custom you were curious about. I thought you might need these documents before tomorrow's negotiations." She stepped aside to let him in, gratitude easing her tension. "Thank you. Damon, you always think of such kindnesses. Please, come sit. We can review them together." They settled in the modest seating area, their voices hushed. Damon produced a selection of historical accounts detailing how centuries ago, Novaterran tribes had reconciled warfare through family bonds, forging marriages between rival clans as a bridge to unity. Aria traced her fingers over the archaic scripts, her eyes glimmering with fascination. "At times," she whispered, "I wonder if marriage is more powerful than any treaty, for it unites not just people, but hearts." Damon leaned closer. "Perhaps that is why it was so effective in those days. Love can surpass the boundaries imposed by politics." Their gazes locked, and a hush fell over them. In the gentle glow of the lamp, Aria noted the sincerity etched upon Damon's features, the compassion that radiated from him as tangibly as sunlight. Her heart pounded. Before she could quell the surge of her feelings, she found herself confessing, "Sometimes, my mind drifts to impossible thoughts. I imagine a life beyond these protocols, these constant watchful eyes. I imagine a moment where I might be free to feel what tugs at my heart." Damon's voice was soft, trembling with the significance of the moment. "And what is it that tugs at your heart, Aria?" She exhaled slowly. "A longing to be near you, to understand you, to share in your world as though it were my own, and to share with you all of Celestia's wonders in return." His eyes glistened, reflecting the tender luminescence of her circlet. "I feel the same longing, though I have no right to it. I am but a humble server, born of a modest lineage, while you are a radiant diplomat, entrusted with the hopes of an entire planet. It seems foolish to dream of bridging such distance." A fragile smile touched Aria's lips. "You speak as though status alone defines us. But love cares little for official rank, Damon. If your heart speaks to mine, that is all the reason I need to listen." Embodied in that moment was the unspoken tension of forbidden desire, the sense that outside these walls lay a world of duties and constraints. Tentatively, carefully, they reached for each other. Aria's slender hands met Damon's warm ones, and he pulled her into a gentle embrace. It was as though the hush of centuries blanketed them, allowing their hearts to converse in a language older than star charts or treaties. Time seemed to meld, each second expanding with the magnitude of their shared breath. Finally, Aria lifted her gaze to Damon's, and in that shared look, the universe itself seemed to exhale. Their lips met in a shy, delicate union, the spark of contact unleashing a chorus of sensations within them. Both her circlet glowed with heightened brilliance, and she sensed a faint resonance in Damon's own life force, as though bridging the boundary between Celestian and human. When they parted, breathless, they found themselves clinging to the sense of oneness that had formed between them. The enormity of their bond hung in the air, both exhilarating and terrifying. "I have never felt such closeness," Aria whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. Damon nodded. "Nor I. It feels as though the cosmos itself blesses this union." But the spell broke as they remembered where they were, who they were, and the precariousness of their situation. They pulled apart with shared reluctance, keenly aware of the hour growing late, and the watchful eyes that might soon wonder at Damon's prolonged absence. Before he left, Damon pressed a small key-like token into her hand, This is a passkey to a private garden on the palace grounds, seldom used. If ever you need respite from the chaos, or if you simply want to be alone with me, meet me there. It is hidden behind the far courtyard, near the statue of the old guardians. Aria closed her fingers around the token, her smile laced with gratitude. Thank you, Damon. I will come when I can. With that, he was gone, leaving a hush of anticipation in his wake. Aria felt her pulse racing, and her circlet glowed with a soft lavender light, reflecting the swirl of possibility that now coursed through her. She turned once more to the panoramic window, seeing the ringed moon in all its silent majesty. Yet, for the first time, she did not feel so alone beneath that silver gaze. Days unfurled in a tapestry of clandestine meetings, official functions, and quiet whispers. Aria and Damon found stolen moments together, weaving a narrative of affection that existed parallel to the public stage. Under the canopy of the secret garden to which Damon's passkey granted entry, they tasted the sweetness of genuine connection, free from the scrutiny that shadowed them in all other spaces. In these secret encounters, they dared speak of the future, of whether a Celestian and a Nova Terran might truly unite in body and soul. Aria confessed that her people had advanced genetic knowledge, capable of bridging certain species gaps, yet it had rarely been tested between humans and Celestians. The concept of a hybrid child, who would carry the heritage of both worlds, had once been whispered of only in the outermost colonies, but never witnessed in the central domains. A gentle flame of curiosity kindled in Damon at this possibility. He envisioned a child who would embody the spirit of universal harmony, a living testament to two civilizations forging a new era of cooperation. Aria, too, could not deny the allure of such a dream, though it frightened her. She thought of the disapproval of her elders, the probable uproar among more conservative Nova Terrans, and the scientific unknowns that such a union entailed. Yet, love has a way of emboldening even the most cautious hearts. One afternoon, in the privacy of the hidden garden, they stood side by side, gazing upon a cluster of iridescent blossoms that glowed with ephemeral brilliance. Aria was explaining how Celestians viewed pollination among these luminous plants as a sacred metaphor for cosmic creation, each bloom symbolizing the birth of new possibilities across vast star fields. Damon listened intently, his hand gently clasped around hers. At last, he spoke, voice filled with wonder and resolve. Aria, if it were somehow possible, if it did not violate your sense of duty, would you wish to conceive a child with me, to bring our peoples into communion in the most profound way? She faltered, her breath catching in her throat. The thought stirs my soul. Yet it is not a decision to be made lightly. I must consider the consequences. Damon, this is bigger than you and me, he nodded, though his eyes brimmed with hope. I know it would change everything, perhaps even threaten the peace we seek, but it might also stand as the greatest symbol of that peace, proof that no gulf is unbridgeable. In that moment, a breeze drifted through the garden, rustling the leaves of the ancient trees, as though the planet itself bore witness to their conversation. Aria felt an almost electric pulse within her, the Celestian resonance that signaled a cosmic alignment of sorts, urging her to not let fear obstruct destiny. She pressed closer to Damon, laying her head softly against his chest. His heart beat strong and steady, anchoring her in the here and now. Yes, she whispered at last. I would want to explore that possibility with you, but we must tread carefully, for the sake of our peoples. They spent the following days consulting in secret with Dr. Varwin, a Celestian biologist among Aria's retinue, whose role was to study the compatibility of Celestian biology with other life forms. Sworn to confidentiality, Dr. Varwin examined the concept of a Celestian-human union with cautious optimism. She explained that while genetic compatibility was uncertain, advanced quantum genome splicing might enable a healthy pregnancy. The process, however, was experimental, requiring specialized equipment and a stable environment. Damon listened with rapt attention, asking questions that revealed both his earnest desire and his underlying fears. Aria, too, felt her doubts flicker. wondering if she dared risk heartbreak should the procedure fail, or should political forces conspire to prevent the birth of such a child. Yet, the impetus of love, tempered by hope, propelled them forward, forging a secret pact that transcended the swirl of daily diplomatic engagements. But all secrets yearned to be discovered, and Nova Terra was no exception. Certain members of the palace staff grew suspicious of Damon's frequent absences. The glances shared between him and the Celestian diplomat, and the hushed nature of their interactions. Whispers reached Governor Taurus, already prone to paranoia about Celestian influence. With each rumor, his distrust festered. In hushed war rooms, the governor and his advisors formulated a plan to intercept Aria's private activities. Convinced that she harbored ulterior motives, they hypothesized that Celestians might try to engineer some new form of being that could serve their agenda, or even harness Nova Terran resources in an insidious manner. Their ignorance and fear fueled wild speculations, culminating in a decision to watch Aria's compound more closely, to gather evidence of supposed wrongdoing. Meanwhile, oblivious to the mounting threat, Damon, Aria, and Dr. Varwin arranged a night journey to a discreet Celestian clinic set up on the outskirts of Aurora City. There, advanced equipment was housed in an understated structure, far from prying eyes. The plan was to run the first of many tests, verifying whether Damon's and Aria's genetic material might be safely fused. They arrived under cover of darkness, the swirl of tall grasses rippling beneath a gentle wind. The building itself blended into the landscape, clad in reflective panels that distorted the sense of shape. Within, Dr. Varwin activated the scanning apparatus, a ring of softly lit mechanisms that shimmered with quantum energies harnessed from Celestia's star core technology. Damon's hand shook slightly as he placed it into the scanner's cradle, while Aria stood by his side, offering silent reassurance. Her circlet glowed faintly, responding to the swirl of her own heightened emotions. Dr. Varwin spoke in calm, clinical tones, describing each step, analyzing the readouts, and adjusting the machine's calibrations. At last, Dr. Varwin stepped back, studying a holographic display that shifted with complex patterns of genetic code. She exhaled, her tone grave yet tinged with excitement. It appears there is a window of compatibility, though it is narrow. With careful splicing, we might indeed foster a Celestian human embryo. The path ahead remains uncertain, but scientifically, it is possible. Aria's heart soared, though it carried an edge of fear. Damon's eyes brimmed with emotion. They exchanged a knowing look, understanding that they stood at the threshold of something far greater than themselves. We must be cautious, Dr. Varwin warned. Proceed with all the care that the cosmos demands. There will be side effects, potential complications, and beyond the biological challenges, the political ramifications could be severe. But if you both remain steadfast, I will do everything in my power to help. The lovers embraced, both awed and apprehensive. They sensed the shifting of cosmic gears, the swirling of destinies in a tapestry they could scarcely grasp. The night seemed luminous in its hush, as if the stars themselves bore witness to the forging of a brand new future, shimmering with the promise that love can bridge any divide. Word travels swiftly in halls of power. No sooner had Aria and Damon begun their delicate medical procedures than Governor Taurus's private agents caught wind of unusual movements at the outskirts facility. With cunning and patience, they gathered incriminating clandestine images of Damon entering Celestian installations, cryptic readouts from unknown devices, and overheard snippets of conversation about the unthinkable idea of cross-species conception. Spurred by fear and prejudice, the governor wasted no time in confronting the Celestian delegation. He convened an emergency council meeting, summoning Aria to stand before an assembly of Nova Terra's key officials. The tension hung like a thundercloud. Aria arrived wearing her formal Celestian robe, her head held high, her heart pounding. She faced a room of stern faces, their expressions tinted by suspicion. As the governor leveled the charge, "We have evidence that your retinue working in concert with one of our citizens, has been conducting secret experiments on Novaterran soil. Experiments aimed at forging a new species without the sanction of our government. A ripple of shock went through the assembled counselors. Aria inhaled deeply, her circlet pulsing with quiet alarm. Honorable council. It was never our intention to deceive or endanger your world. We sought only to explore the boundaries of life's possibilities, in a manner that might one day bring our two peoples closer together. The governor's voice thundered. You used this young man, Damon, a humble server, for your own ends. It is an exploitation, masked under the guise of science. Have you no regard for the moral and cultural ramifications of your actions? Damon, who had managed to slip into the council chambers despite the guards' attempts to bar him, stepped forward, voice steady though laced with anxiety. That's not true. I am not some pawn in a Celestian scheme. I went of my own will. Because I love Aria, and we wanted to see if our love could bear fruit. This was a deeply personal matter, not a political maneuver. A hushed gasp rippled through the crowd. Some of the counselors exchanged glances, uncertain how to process such a bold admission. Others glowered, their distrust fueled by preconceived notions of Celestian manipulation. Aria's eyes glistened with emotion. We hid these actions only because we feared the repercussions, the misunderstandings. If it is a crime to hope for a future that unites our worlds through love, then I stand guilty. But I maintain that what we have done is in pursuit of peace, not domination. Governor Taras seized upon the tension, turning to his advisors. We must consider the ramifications of allowing Celestians such free reign within our borders. What if this so-called hybrid child is but the first step in a broader agenda to reshape humankind? He cited cultural and religious leaders who opposed any genetic alterations. Citing the sanctity of human form, he framed Aria's experiments as an affront to Novaterra's sovereignty. Worn down by suspicion and fear, many counselors began to murmur assent. Yet, a handful of voices rose in Aria's defense. Ambassador Lyon, a seasoned diplomat who had studied Celestia's history, implored caution. We have seen no direct threat in Celestia's offers. They have come with open hands. We risk throwing away a chance at a grand alliance because of our own paranoia. The debate raged for hours. At last, it was decided that the Celestians would face a tribunal to assess the legality and ethics of their actions. Aria was placed under restricted house arrest within the Celestian compound, forbidden from leaving the premises without official escort. Damon, faced potential charges of treason for colluding in unauthorized genetic experimentation. In the hush that followed, Aria and Damon were led away in separate directions, each under guard, their hearts weighed down by sorrow and uncertainty. They had dared to envision a bridge between worlds, only to find themselves ensnared in the thorns of fear and misunderstanding. During the days leading up to the tribunal, Aria remained confined to her quarters. She felt the sting of isolation as guards stood watch, and many of the Celestian retinue avoided direct contact with her, fearing their own involvement. Only Dr. Varwin and a few loyal associates visited, bringing news of Damon and the broader social climate in Aurora City. We are trying to negotiate for your release, Dr. Varwin assured her. But the governor's faction is powerful. They claim that you violated the terms of the diplomatic mission, that the creation of a Celestian-human hybrid is an existential threat. Public opinion is divided. Aria sat by the window, gazing upon the city's skyline. Clouds drifted across the ringed moon, their shapes reminiscent of sorrowful silhouettes. Have you heard any word of Damon? She asked, her voice trembling at the mention of his name. Dr. Varwin hesitated. He is under observation. They have not imprisoned him formally, but he is kept within the palace. Under guard, there is talk that the tribunal might force him to testify against you, to claim you coerced him. Aria's gaze hardened. He would never say such a thing. Our bond is real, not coerced. A sympathetic look flickered in the doctor's eyes. I believe you. But they may pressure him, or threaten him with dire consequences. We must remain vigilant. Time crawled. Each new day brought fresh rumors of protests outside the Celestian compound, or of diplomatic allies struggling to maintain calm. Some segments of the Novaterran populace, enchanted by the idea of bridging worlds, rallied in support of Aria and Damon, calling them symbols of love transcending species. Meanwhile, more conservative groups gathered under banners, proclaiming the sanctity of human form, insisting that Celestian meddling be banished. Amid the turbulence, Aria often placed a hand upon her abdomen, haunted by the question of whether life had already begun to take root there. The initial tests had indicated a narrow but viable window for conception. She had received an injection of spliced biomaterial, prepared in Dr. Varwin's lab, though it was far too early to confirm pregnancy. The possibility that she might carry a child within her gave her both hope and dread, for she could scarcely imagine the uproar if it were discovered. At last, the day of the tribunal arrived, overshadowed by dark, swirling clouds. The Grand Council Hall was overflowing with onlookers. Holographic cameras hovered, transmitting the proceedings to every corner of Novaterra. Aria stood at the center of the chamber, flanked by Celestian aides, her circlet glowing a soft, resolute silver. Opposite her stood Governor Taurus, stern and unyielding, and a panel of robed judges who would determine her fate. Damon was brought forth, escorted by guards, allowed to stand only a short distance from Aria, though it might as well have been light years. The first proceedings were formal, with the reading of the charges violation of diplomatic protocol, conducting unauthorized genetic experiments, endangering the stability of Novaterra's social fabric. Aria was allowed to speak in her defense, and she did so with controlled passion, explaining that her actions were driven by genuine affection, guided by scientific curiosity aimed at forging unity. She spoke of the Celestian principle of cosmic kinship, the belief that all sentient life shared an origin in the stardust scattered across galaxies, and that forging deeper connections was the highest calling. But her eloquence met with hard stares from certain judges, who demanded proof that these experiments had been benign, rather than the first step in a Celestian plot. The testimony continued with Dr. Varwin's explanation of the genetic splicing, presenting data that, while complex, confirmed that no harm to Novaterra's environment or population had been intended. Still, suspicion lingered. Finally, Damon was asked to testify. He stepped forward, voice steady, eyes fixed on Aria with unwavering devotion. "I am not a scholar, nor a politician. I am just a man who found something extraordinary, the love of a being from another world, who showed me that we are not so different. Despite appearances, I chose to participate in this experiment because I believe our child, if ever we are blessed with one, could embody the very peace both our worlds claim to seek." A hush fell, broken only by scattered murmurs from the audience. Governor Taurus seized the moment, pressing Damon with pointed questions. "But can you be certain you were not manipulated? Celestians are known to possess empathic gifts, subtle telepathic influences. Were you truly acting of your own free will?" Damon's brow furrowed. "I know my own heart, and it was not forced. No empathic powers compelled me. My choices were mine alone." The governor then played recorded images and transmissions, carefully edited to suggest clandestine wrongdoing. He invoked religious leaders who labeled the hybrid concept an abomination. He invoked scientists who cautioned that unknown genetic factors could jeopardize Novaterra's gene pool in the future. Tension soared. Each argument balanced on a razor's edge. The judging panel deliberated in visible conflict. On one hand, no definitive evidence proved malicious intent. On the other, the secrecy of the undertaking stirred public unease. At last, the chief judge spoke, voice reverberating through the hall. "We find the actions of the Celestian envoy and the citizen Damon to be in violation of established diplomatic protocols. However, we can find no conclusive evidence of a plot against Novaterra. The punishment must reflect the gravity of their disregard for our laws, yet also acknowledge the absence of malicious proof." A hush spanned the chamber, the entire planet seemingly holding its breath. "Therefore," the judge continued, "Aria of Celestia is to be expelled from Nova Terra with her delegation. Within 3 days' time, there will be no formal charges of treason against Damon, but he is barred from leaving the planet for a period of 5 years, ensuring that no further unauthorized collaborations occur. This tribunal is concluded. A murmur of shock and relief rippled through the spectators. Some Celestian delegates tensed in indignation, yet they were acutely aware that it could have ended far worse. Aria felt a surge of heartbreak, realizing that she was effectively banished, torn from Damon, from the love that had awakened her soul to new possibilities. In the throng of onlookers, Damon's despair was palpable, his fists clenched in frustration. The guards pressed in, preparing to escort everyone from the chamber. Aria's eyes locked onto Damon's, luminous tears gathering. "Forgive me," she whispered, though only his heart truly heard. A solemn hush descended upon the Celestian diplomatic compound, preparing for departure. The Celestians packed their technology, shutting down labs and tying up negotiations that now seemed forever stunted. Dr. Varwin approached Aria with a grave face. "We are to leave tomorrow at dawn. What will you do about Damon?" Tears glistened in Aria's eyes. "I have no choice but to go. The tribunal's decision was final. If I disobey, it could incite further unrest." Dr. Varwin hesitated, then reached into her pocket, withdrawing a small crystal vial that pulsed with soft light. This contains the final stage of the splicing serum, refined to stabilize embryonic growth. If indeed an embryo has taken hold, if you wish to continue, you should administer it within the next day. But if you decide the risk is too great, I can dispose of it. Aria gazed at the vial, emotions warring within her. She thought of Damon, of the love they shared, the dream of a hybrid child who might embody the unity she strove to forge. Then, she recalled the hostility of the tribunal and the uncertain future that lay ahead. Yet, in the silence of her heart, she knew what she must do. Taking the vial from Dr. Varwin, she whispered, "Thank you. I will take it with me. Let fate guide what follows." The night before departure, she ventured to the secret garden one last time, passkey in hand. To her relief, she found Damon waiting, having slipped past the guards through hidden corridors, driven by desperate longing. In the moonlit sanctuary of that garden, they embraced, each holding the other as though trying to stop time. "They are sending you away," Damon choked out, voice raw with pain. "And I am forbidden from leaving. How can they tear us apart like this?" A sob escaped Aria's throat. "They fear what they do not understand. We tried to show them love, but fear is a potent force." He rested his forehead against hers. "Come, let us flee together. In your ship. We can find refuge on Celestia or any star along the way. We can start anew." She shook her head sadly. "Damon, if I do that, I violate the tribunal's sentence. The fragile peace between our worlds would crumble. This would confirm their worst fears of Celestian treachery. It could lead to conflict between our planets. I cannot be the spark that ignites war." Damon's shoulders sagged. Defeated by her logic, she offered a trembling smile, pressing the small vial into his hand. "This is the last of the splicing serum. I already received the first dose. If a child is conceived, its survival will depend on this. But I cannot safely administer it here. Not with the Watchers so near." Damon's eyes flickered with confusion and hope. "You mean, you want me to hold on to it until we can be together again?" She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. "If you can one day find a path to Celestia, if the political climate changes, perhaps we can complete the process there. Perhaps I will already be with child, by the faint chance that the previous steps succeeded. If so, this serum could be crucial, or if not, then the dream of that child shall wait until the time is right." Their hands closed around the vial in a shared gesture, sealing a silent vow. Then, beneath the starlit canopy, they sealed it with a tender, lingering kiss. The hush of the garden bore witness to their heartbreak. At dawn, Aria and the Celestian delegation boarded their shimmering vessel. Across the city, some citizens gathered in sadness, others in grim relief. The engines roared to life, and the craft soared upward in a radiant arc, leaving behind the towers of Aurora City, the ringed moon, and the man whose heart was bound to Aria's by a cosmic thread. The journey back to Celestia was somber. Aria spent her days in reflection, grappling with the swirl of emotions that accompanied her. She confided in Dr. Varwin, who quietly monitored her health, running discreet scans to detect any signs of a developing embryo. Nothing conclusive could be determined yet, so Aria clung to hope with every fiber of her being, longing for a child that might carry Damon's eyes, Damon's spirit. Upon arrival in Celestia's orbit, the vessel landed at the spired capital, a breathtaking city of crystalline towers that refracted starlight into elaborate rainbows across the streets. The Celestian Council met Aria with stern faces, having received word of the fiasco on Nova Terra. She was brought before the High Elder, an ancient figure robed in shimmering cloth, whose eyes radiated centuries of wisdom. "You were sent to forge peace and negotiation," the High Elder intoned, "and instead you have caused controversy, endangering our diplomatic standing." Aria bowed her head. "I followed my heart as well as my duties, honored Elder. Please, believe me when I say I never intended to compromise Celestia's dignity or the alliance we sought." A hush followed. The High Elder studied her with penetrating insight. Then, surprisingly, his gaze softened. "The path of love seldom follows the lines drawn by politics. Celestia does not condemn love, nor do we condemn the search for unity among species. Yet, we must be mindful of the storms such unions can unleash. You will remain here, under our observation, until we decide how best to proceed with further negotiations." Aria bowed in acceptance of the Council's decision, relieved that she would not be punished more severely. Still, her heart yearned for Damon, for the child they might have conceived, for the dream she had left behind on Nova Terra. In the weeks that followed, Aria remained in Celestia's capital, living in a gentle sort of exile. She was treated kindly by her fellow Celestians, though many regarded her with a curious mixture of admiration and concern. Some saw her as a romantic figure who dared attempt the impossible. Others deemed her reckless, risking the delicate balance of interstellar relations. Every morning, Aria awoke to the shimmering light of her homeworld, a stark contrast to the metallic skyscapes of Nova Terra. She performed her duties diligently, assisting in research on cross-cultural relations, providing her knowledge of Nova Terran society for future attempts at peace. But each night, she gazed upon the star-latticed windows, searching for Nova Terra's faint glow in the cosmic expanse, whispering Damon's name like a prayer. Back on Nova Terra, life continued in a subdued manner for Damon. He returned to a simpler routine, no longer serving in the palace, but working at a small library in the city's quieter quarter. He found solace among books that spoke of interstellar voyages, romance beyond species, and ancient myths of union between distant realms. Yet, an emptiness gnawed at him every day. He recalled Aria's parting glance, the heartbreak of their forced separation. He guarded the crystal vial she had given him, keeping it hidden in a small locked compartment in his modest dwelling, a token of faith in a future that might one day unite them. Occasionally, he risked reaching out to Celestia through back channels, seeking any sliver of news about Aria, though official communications remained tightly regulated. One evening, as he was closing the library, a figure shrouded in a plain cloak approached, removing the hood. The stranger revealed herself to be Ambassador Lion, the one who had spoken in Aria's defense at the tribunal. She offered him a small datapad. "These are documents that pass through the highest channels of the planetary concord," she murmured quietly. "It seems the Celestians have not closed the door on future negotiation. They have proposed a second round of diplomatic talks, to be held on a neutral station orbiting the dwarf planet Helion. The reason I bring this to you is that your name was mentioned. Aria herself petitioned for your presence, requesting that you be given clearance to leave Nova Terra for these talks." Damon's heart thundered. Does that mean the tribunal's ban may be lifted? Lion shook her head. Not yet, but there is movement. Some counselors believe the penalty was too harsh, or fear that severing ties with Celestia might leave us vulnerable should we need their assistance in a galactic crisis. Terrace's influence wanes somewhat as public interest in a Celestian alliance grows. Enough that this second summit is possible. Hope bloomed in Damon's chest like a rare flower. He thought of the time that had passed, of the possibility that Aria might already be bearing his child, or that they might still attempt to conceive. "What must I do?" he asked. Ambassador Lion laid a hand on his shoulder. "Continue to be patient and prepare. If the new negotiations progress, we may find a diplomatic path to involve you." The memory of your public confession still resonates with many citizens who romanticize your bond with Aria. Public sentiment can be swayed. With that, she departed, leaving Damon in a whirlwind of renewed determination. Months passed, full of behind-the-scenes negotiations. Little by little, the hostility that had flared on Nova Terra began to cool. Governor Taurus's power faced challenges from progressive counselors who saw wisdom in forging ties with Celestia, especially as cosmic storms threatened the outer colonies, and rumors spread of more fearsome species lurking beyond the known trade routes. Finally, a date was set for the second summit, to be held on the Helion Station, a neutral facility known for hosting interstellar gatherings. Through the tireless advocacy of Ambassador Lion and a handful of pro-Alliance Council members, Damon secured permission to attend, though it came with conditions. He would travel under official escort, forbidden from setting foot on Celestian soil without express approval from both governments. Trepidation and excitement tangled within Damon as he boarded the small Nova Terran shuttle. The journey through space, though only a few days, felt surreal. He gazed out the window at the endless stars, the swirl of galaxies, recalling the quiet wonder he had seen in Aria's eyes whenever she spoke of cosmic grandeur. At last, the shuttle docked with Helion Station, a sprawling ring structure that orbited a pale dwarf planet. Damon disembarked, heart pounding at every step. A Celestian liaison, draped in shimmering fabrics, greeted him politely, leading him through the station's corridors to the Celestian quarters. His official escort trailed at a cautious distance, ever watchful. Then, at the end of a softly lit corridor, Damon saw her, Aria, standing quietly, robes of silver and white reflecting the station's artificial lights. Her circlet glowed a gentle gold hue, signaling profound emotion. Their eyes locked, and in that instant, time and space fell away. He hurried forward, words tumbling out in a breathless whisper. "Aria, it feels like 1,000 years since I last saw you." She moved to meet him, stopping just shy of his arms, conscious of the watchers, but her gaze held an intensity that spoke volumes. "Damon, I have waited, prayed for this day. How I have missed you." The watchers stepped back discreetly, allowing the pair a measure of privacy. Tears brimmed in Aria's eyes as she lifted a trembling hand to Damon's cheek. Feeling the warmth of his skin, the reality of his presence, he closed his eyes, savoring the simple yet profound contact. "How are you?" he asked, voice trembling with a dozen unspoken questions. She managed a soft smile. "I am changed. My world has become both larger and lonelier without you." The Celestian Council has been cautious. They are not opposed to the idea of a deeper bond with Nova Terra, but they want strict assurances that nothing like the fiasco of the tribunal will repeat. His gaze flicked downward. "I'm so sorry for what happened, for the condemnation you faced. I never wanted you to be punished." She shook her head gently. "We knew the risks, and we would do it again for the chance of this moment." Then, her eyes flickered with a mixture of anticipation and fear. She pressed a hand lightly against her abdomen. His breath caught. "Aria, you did the splicing." A tear slipped down her cheek. "Not this time. The embryo did not take. It wasn't meant to be, perhaps. Dr. Varwin believes the environment shift, the stress, the incomplete serum all contributed. We lost the chance." His heart constricted at her sorrow. He drew her closer, heedless of the watchers. "I'm so sorry. That must have been heartbreaking to face alone." She nodded against his shoulder, silent tears racking her slender frame. After a moment, she took a steadying breath. "I have not given up hope, Damon. If we can find a time when both our governments bless our union, perhaps we can try again, under safer, more supportive circumstances." He tenderly brushed away her tears. "I will wait as long as it takes." In that fragile moment, love conquered the distance that politics had enforced, weaving them together once more, if only for an instant. The summit aboard Helion Station proved markedly different from the tribunal. Delegates from Celestia and Nova Terra shared a sense of caution tinged with hard-earned respect. Aria spoke passionately on the promise of cooperative research, humanitarian aid, cultural exchange, while Nova Terran ambassadors emphasized their desire for safeguarding autonomy. Meetings stretched over several weeks, each day bringing incremental progress toward a formal pact. Damon was largely kept on the periphery, but he found private moments with Aria, walking the station's observation decks, discussing not just their personal dreams, but the broader vision of a universe where love and collaboration might flourish. At times, Aria glimpsed a new, almost reverential awe in the Celestian delegates' eyes whenever they beheld her with Damon. Their story had become something of a legend, whispered among Celestians who admired the bravery required to cross species lines. Yet, official caution remained strong, and no immediate talk of a hybrid child surfaced during the negotiations, not wanting to rekindle the political firestorm. But something else happened. As Celestians and Nova Terrans mingled on Helion Station, an undercurrent of mutual curiosity blossomed. Scientists exchanged ideas. Artists found inspiration in one another's perspectives. Friendships formed over shared meals. The walls of prejudice began to erode, replaced by the realization that each side possessed something beautiful and unique to offer. Finally, on the summit's final day, a new treaty was signed. It fell short of a full alliance, but it established frameworks for future collaboration, joint scientific ventures, cultural programs, and open dialogue. Both sides viewed it as a stepping stone, a promise that the path to unity remained open. In a small ceremony afterward, away from the crowds, Aria and Damon stood side by side, witnessing the official sealing of the treaty. Their hearts soared at the possibility that a new dawn awaited their worlds, though they knew further challenges lay ahead. With the treaty in place, certain restrictions eased. Damon was granted extended permission to travel between Nova Terra and neutral stations for authorized cultural exchange programs. Meanwhile, Aria was reinstated as a special envoy, albeit one closely supervised by both Celestian and Nova Terran oversight panels. Yet, these stipulations, while confining, allowed them a ray of hope. No longer forcibly separated by an entire planet, they could at least meet in official contexts without fear of immediate reprisal. Over the next year, they rendezvoused aboard Helion Station multiple times, participating in cultural workshops, teaching about the customs of their respective peoples, and quietly dreaming of a future beyond the watchful eyes. During those months, Dr. Varwin and other Celestian researchers refined their quantum splicing techniques. Learning from the previous failures, small breakthroughs emerged, culminating in a stable serum that promised a higher rate of success. But neither Aria nor Damon wished to attempt another conception in the precarious environment of Helion Station. With delegates and watchers hovering, they resolved to be patient, to let trust mature between their worlds. As the cultural exchanges grew more successful, the hostility that once dominated Nova Terran opinion began to abate. Governor Taurus, ever the skeptic, found his influence waning. The new wave of progressives in the planetary concord championed collaboration with Celestia, citing improved technologies in food production and medical research. Public sentiment shifted too, fascinated by Celestian arts and intrigued by rumored love stories bridging the cosmic divide. At last, after a particularly fruitful round of joint research on Helion Station, the Celestian Council and the Nova Terran leadership agreed to a new pilot program, granting Aria and Damon official dispensation to live together for a defined period in a specially designated cultural harmony residence on Helion Station. The idea was to demonstrate, on a personal level, the viability of Celestian-human cohabitation, both biologically and socially. When Aria and Damon first stepped into their modest quarters, side by side, they could scarcely believe the turn of events. The Watchers were still there, in the broader station corridors, and the experiment's official nature meant daily check-ins. Yet, for the first time, they had a home, however small, to call their own, a space in which they might awaken each day and see each other's faces, not as star-crossed exiles, but as partners in forging a new epoch. In the gentle privacy of that shared space, they laughed, cooked, shared stories of their childhoods. Aria introduced Damon to Celestian star meditation techniques, while he taught her the folk songs of Nova Terra, their simple melodies weaving heartstrings through the station's sterile corridors. Each moment felt precious, as though the seeds of a grand future were germinating. And in time, they decided it was right to try once more, to see if their love might yield a new life. Supported discreetly by Dr. Varwin's advanced medical knowledge, they administered the refined splicing serum under more stable conditions. Months of prayers and anxieties followed, each day a delicate thread in the tapestry of possibility. At last, the day arrived when Dr. Varwin's gentle scan showed the faint spark of life blooming within Aria. The embryo was stable, responding well to Celestian human resonance. Tears of joy streamed down Aria's face. Damon's arms wrapped around her in a tight embrace. They laughed, cried, and whispered words of wonder, overwhelmed by the miracle they had dared to believe in. The news spread cautiously. First among the Celestian and Nova Terran delegates, reactions varied, from awe and cautious optimism to fear and skepticism. But as the pregnancy progressed without major complications, the tide of sentiment slowly shifted. More and more, people came to see the unborn child as a living symbol of hope, an emblem that love truly could transcend the boundaries of worlds. 9 months of station cycles later, Aria went into labor. The Celestian Medical Bay, prepared for this historic birth, welcomed her with advanced equipment, though the procedure relied as much on compassion and care as on technology. Damon stood by her side, holding her hand, whispering words of encouragement. Under the watchful guidance of Dr. Varwin and Nova Terran obstetric specialists, the child was born, bridging the cosmic gap in one resounding cry. A hush fell over the birthing chamber as the infant's soft wails filled the air. Tiny, delicate, yet profoundly significant. The newborn carried traits from both mother and father, the gentle, luminous aura of Celestian lineage, and the warm, human eyes that gazed at the world with unfiltered wonder. Aria cradled the child, tears gleaming on her cheeks. Damon pressed a trembling kiss to both mother and baby, his heart overflowing with love and astonishment. Messages rushed across the station, and soon across the cosmic channels, announcing the birth of the first confirmed Celestian human child. Public reactions varied, but an overwhelming wave of curiosity and celebration took shape. Delegates from both governments flocked to the medical bay, wanting to glimpse the tiny ambassador of a new era. Days later, a special press conference was arranged in Helion Station's grand auditorium, where Aria and Damon presented their child to representatives from Nova Terra, Celestia, and other star systems. Aria's voice, though still trembling from emotion, carried the grace that had always defined her. Behold our daughter, Selena, whose name we have chosen to honor the stars of Celestia and the bright potential of Nova Terra. She is the child of two worlds, born of a love that overcame fear. May she serve as a beacon to guide us toward understanding, unity, and peace. Thunderous applause reverberated through the hall, tears shining on many faces. Damon, by Aria's side, cradled Selena in his arms, smiling so broadly it seemed his heart might burst. In that moment, all the tribulations they had endured, the tribunal, the suspicion, the clandestine tests. The heartbreak of their first failed attempt seemed a distant memory. The story of Aria and Damon, culminating in the radiant birth of Selena, would be told across galaxies, inspiring a new wave of cross-cultural understanding. While challenges would certainly persist as Selena grew, she would face the complexities of straddling two civilizations, yet her very existence stood as a testament to the power of love. Over time, new Celestian Nova-Terran initiatives flourished, from joint academies for the study of interspecies biology to cultural festivals celebrating the shared heritage of humankind and Celestian kind. Trade agreements evolved into deeper alliances, each step fostering a stronger bond than before. Aria continued her diplomatic work, though now she did so from a position of even greater empathy. Her child always a reminder of what lay at stake. Damon became a cultural liaison, bridging the gap between everyday Nova-Terran life and Celestian perspectives, forever guided by the unwavering devotion he felt for his family. And in those quiet nights, beneath the star-speckled dome of Helion Station's observation deck, Aria, Damon, and Selena would gaze upon the cosmic sea, listening to the gentle hum of the station's life support systems, marveling at the vast tapestry of worlds that spread out before them. The ringed moon of Nova Terra and the crystalline spires of Celestia were no longer distant concepts, but twin lights in the same sky, united by a single thread of love that spanned galaxies. So it was that their journey, fraught with doubt and danger, ended in a bright new beginning, a triumph of hope over fear, forging a bridge not just of treaties and pacts, but of hearts and souls. Their little family, once separated by the gulf of space and misunderstanding, stood as living proof that love could indeed transcend species, and that peace among worlds was not merely a dream, but an attainable reality, shining with promise for all.